What's going on YouTube? StreetRunner51 here, coming at you with an updated deck profile today. This is an update on my Madolches. I took it back to locals again this week. This weekend. I went X2. I was actually 10th place because my tiebreakers were all in top 8. One of them was playing Cliff Fort, and another one was playing it was Cliff Fort. Oh, and Burning Abyss. Cliff Fort's actually a pretty bad matchup for this deck. It's a good matchup if Towers wasn't a card. However, since it is and they make it, you kind of lose. But if it wasn't, then yeah, you'd be fine. And then I lost to Burning Abyss, mainly because I kind of drew bad. Like, it happens. Like, there's nothing you can do sometimes. Because game 2, we both ended up drawing kind of iffy. And then I just managed to grind it out, and then, since this is what the deck does, it grinds out. Game 3, I just kind of lost. Like, it just happens. Overpowered, loss, you know. However, let's get right into the update. Not much has changed, so I'll just kind of go through it quickly. The one pudding cess still, I like it because it gets rid of things. Like, the fact that you can battle, then pop something, it makes people it forces things to be activated before or during the battle phase. So I find that really, really extremely useful to be able to bait my opponent's things out, which is what the deck kind of likes to do before it makes its plays, is bait out stuff. 3 Angeli's pretty obvious. 3 Madolche. People play 2 sometimes. I don't like that because a lot of the times I need to kind of make my hand better anyway, and I feel like Madolche is just the only card that really does that. That really makes a bad hand good. Because if worse comes worse, you could search out more copies of her. And if they stop her, they're not going to, like, Vanity's Emptiness when you summon her, so yeah. And then 2 Hoop Cake, pretty self-explanatory. You could play 3 if you want. There was an instance where I needed a third one and I didn't have it, but, I mean, it's very far and few in between. That was one game. And I feel like if it's just one game, that's not really enough justification to play 3. Like, it just doesn't really make sense to me. And then 2 Messengelato. I've never needed more than 2. I used to play 3. I did used to play 3. I liked it, but I kind of think 2 is better right now. You can't really afford the bad, awkward hands that the deck gets when you play too many of a card. It just doesn't really work out anymore. Like, the game is too evolved for that. 1 Croissant. It just promotes more plays, and the level manipulation is really good. And the fact that it's a level 3 that you can summon off of Hoop Cake, that could make itself a level 4. I feel like that in and of itself is really useful. And then I upped my Mufulate count at 2. I don't know if it was in the other video that I played 2 of these, but I know that I play 2 now. And I know I played 1 at a certain point in the game. And I liked it. I really did, but I feel like since more things are out that stop your plays, like that would stop something from searching this, like MSTs and, you know, just other random things, I'd rather just have it in my hand and be able to make a play off of it, or in some instances have the second one if I need it. So that's why I put it in. And then the Secret Tech, it's Globe Bulb. It was in my last video that I played it. Some people were wondering why. Well, you can make Naturia Beast, you can make Naturia Barkion, it kills Cliff Fort, it kills Burning Abyss if you can make Barkion, because a lot of times they just set a lot of back row, and if you can just drop a Barkion, they don't win. Or if you're playing, I played against Geargia, I dropped a Barkion, it negated Mirror Force, and I won the game that turn. So it comes to be really handy, and I like it a lot. And then for the spells, 2 Chateau, 1 Ticket. Some people argue to play, I actually remember someone in the comments was telling me, why don't I play 2? Well, just to kind of be verbal about why I don't play 2, there's a really good reason, actually. If you play 2 Ticket, you're basically playing the worst one at a larger copy. Like, you can only get Ticket's effect once per turn. So if you have a board and they Mirror Force you, you get 1 Ticket search back. And so say you had 3 monsters, you're going to get 1 card for those 3 monsters, so you still -2'd. Also, the fact of the matter is, this card isn't as good unless you have a fairy on the field. And more often than not, Angeli isn't going to be on the field, and Pudding Cess isn't going to be on the field to fuel every single trigger of this card. So that means you have to exceed. So, I mean, no hate against the people that play 2 and 2 or 2 and 3 or 3 and 3 or 3 and 2 or 1 and 3 and whatever the other combinations of that are. No hate against them. I just personally like 1. It's good when I need it, and you can put it back in the deck if they MST it with pudding cess, or you can put them back with pudding cess a la mode. You can put them back, or you could put it back with tiramisu. You could put it back with those 2 cards, and you can search it with Messenger Gelato. And some people are like, well, I find myself searching Chateau more often. So if you find yourself always searching Chateau and not searching Ticket, that's also an answer in and of itself as to why you should be playing 2 of this and 1 of this. Because if you need the Chateau more often, and you're saying you need to play more tickets, that means that you're playing more tickets because even though you don't need them, and you're going to see this a little less often, even though you need it more. Like, I'm sorry if that was confusing, but like if you're saying that you don't need to search Ticket off of Chateau, yet you say you need more tickets in the deck, that's an answer. That kind of answers your own question as to why I play 1 ticket. I don't need it as much. It's not as important, but it's good. It's definitely good, but it's just not as important. I felt like I needed to explain that a little more because it's just any additions that I need to make onto this deck or anything that's different, I kind of want to capitalize on it. I still play 2 double summon. I don't know if it was in the last video that I played double summon or... Yeah, I played double summon in my last video. I didn't see it much during the tournament. It was okay. I didn't really like it that much because it wasn't really there. I mean, you could drop this card and you wouldn't even notice. I'd probably drop it for Call the Haunted, honestly. Call the Haunted would be a hell of a lot better than this card because sometimes you just don't have the hands for double summon. Foolish Burial, I still play it because it's good. It's just a good card to play. 2 Lance. I don't know if it was in my last video or not, but I like to play Lance in this deck because it makes it so my plays and my monsters are protected from stuff. Lance actually came in clutch a couple times, and I really liked it. People like they were Regeki, and I forbidden Lance something that was under Angeli, so they couldn't kill it. You know, you just gotta play smart with Lance in this deck because it's a little less... Like, it's not recyclable, so you have to make the right calls with it. And the duality. Someone was asking me, why do I play duality? It's sideable. That's not like, oh, I don't play cards just to side them out, but it's a side deckable card. Really easy to just determine what you want in and out of the deck by, you know, oh, I need some space, well, I'll take out the duality. It's good for when you're going first. It's good for when you're going second sometimes, because, like, your hands can get weird. Like, unless you've playtested this deck in real life, you would know. You would think this deck would always draw pretty well because of all the monsters you play. However, through practice, the deck draws fucking ridiculously weird hands of, like, monsters and spells and traps that you never thought you'd ever possibly draw multiple times in a tournament. And the only way to unbrick them sometimes is to just duality and try and see if you can get out of it. Because usually within the next 3 cards, there's a pretty good way to get out of your current situation. However, it sucks when you draw weird and you have no way to get out of that. And usually you can only afford to spend 1 turn on it, so that's why I only play 1 duality, if that makes sense. And then Regeki, I play Regeki because I want to make sure I can just kind of push through a board and maybe hopefully bounce back row instead of monsters, because that's always what I would rather prefer bouncing is back row. So the Regeki is there to get rid of the front row, while the Tiramisu is to get rid of the back row. Book of Moon, double MST. Not really going to go much into that. And then for the traps, 1 Palooza. This card comes in clutch more often than not. I mean, I would play 2 of it. If you wanted to, you could take out a double summon for a second Palooza and play a Call of the Haunted with the other double summon space, if you really wanted to. I used to play 2 Palooza all the time, and I actually used to do really well with that. I like 2 because it's just... I like to play 2 because the fact that you can just drop everything is really OP to me. But you don't have to. It's an option. But more often than not, when you play this card with like 3 or more Madolches in hand, you win. Because you bait out all their cards, and then you flip this after they tried to stop you, or after they used all their resources. And then 3 Fiendish Chain. I like it because it just gets around my opponent's stuff. It makes my opponent's shit useless, and I like that a lot about the card. And 2 Wiretap. I didn't see much of it, but when I did, it was actually pretty nice because I like to not worry about what my opponent could have when I have a card that just kind of stops the chain altogether. I actually used it once or twice during the weekend. And then Deprison. I can't stress how much better this card is versus Mirror Force right now. Like, you banish Dante's with this card, you banish Girgia cards with this card, you banish Necroz monsters with this card, you banish Cliffort monsters with this card, you banish a Cliffort monster, that shit ain't being Pendulum Summoned back. So that's immediately makes it better, honestly, in my opinion. So, like, banishing is always better, in my opinion, right now. It's just a million times better than Mirror Force is. But you don't have to play it. I just like it a lot. Then I play the Warning, the Compulsion, the Bottomless. Mainly just because you need ways to get around monsters. And then you play a Torrential because it have more ways to get around monsters. Or big boards that your opponent might be creating. And then for the extra and sideboard, some of the cards on my side are weird, I won't lie. But I play 2 Alamode, 2 Tiramisu, 1 Invoker, 2 Leviair, 1 Melier of the Trees, basically to turbo into your your Glow-Up Bulb, I mean. It really is like to turbo into your Glow-Up Bulb, and it works. Like because against like the Clifford matchup, you're going to want Melier of the Trees and to be able to make Nat Beast and then use your MSTs to kill your opponent. And then Alucard, to get rid of back row, obviously. 1 Acid Golem. People don't play it anymore. If I would change it, I would change it for Diamond Crab King, because you need an out to towers that I just don't have. I don't have Diamond Crab King, so I can't make it, obviously. So I just play this in the rare instance that I don't know, something could happen where this becomes better than Diamond Crab King, and it's just good all around. Then 1 Mech Equipped. It's just good. It's useful. 1 Abyss Dweller to get around my opponent's graveyard. 1 Ragnazero to get around Cliffort monsters. Then Nat Beast and Barkion. I mean, yeah, that's for global. I'm not going to go into that. And for the side deck, a lot of it's irrelevant, but it's unorganized. There we go. Now it's organized, I think. Fire Hand. I thought I played 2. There it is. Sorry. Alright, 2 Fire Hand, 2 Ice Hand. I feel like in Madolches you can afford to play the hands on the side deck if you don't have them in the main board. These were in here because I used to play E-Tellies and I just don't play them anymore, so you don't have to worry about these. I never would have needed them anyway, because I play Glow Bulb now. But I do side deck 2 Madolche Knights, in the rare instance that I feel like effect monsters are too overpowered. Like, certain effect monster decks are just too good and I need more effect negation. I played 2 Mind Crush on the sideboard, just because it's Mind Crush. I mean, usually, like, it's one of those cards of the format. And I played 2 Shadow Imprisoning Mirrors, which came in clutch against Burning Abyss. A Chaos Trap Hole, which I used against a Dante, which was really good. And then 2 Fairy Winds, which was actually used. I demolished Clifforts with this card because I just blow them out and do like 1600 damage in one turn with Fairy Wind. That's ridiculous too, in my opinion. But that's the deck. That's just a quick update on it, just to let you guys know what's been going on with it. What I've changed, what I kept the same, blah blah blah. My opinion on it still. You know, I do think it's not as good, but it is definitely a fun, good deck to play if you want something competitive that's also not super expensive. Yeah, I'd stick with this deck then. Because if you go meta, then like you're going to be dropping a lot of more money than you would on this deck that can kind of take out the meta sometimes. There's just a couple of kinks that need to be either worked out or stuff that needs to come off the ban list to make the deck work better, in my opinion. But that's just a quick little update on it. I figured I'd let you guys know, and just let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it, and peace out, YouTube.